Okay, now that you have learned how to set up Final Cut Pro, we are now going to learn how to import videos, edit, and some other basic features. So the first thing you're going to need to go is come up here to File. And when you come to File, you can come down to Import. And there's a couple different ways you can import. You can import one file at a time, or you can import the whole folder. If you're importing the whole folder, what I would recommend is that you only have video clips in that folder. Don't have other files like a Word file, an Illustrator file, or something else like that. So I'm going to import a whole folder and I have a bunch of videos here, a photo, so I'm going to hit choose, and up here in my browser you're going to see that this photo folder showed up, and now all those files in there showed up. Now if you had a Word document in there, you would get a warning that would pop up right about here that would say this is an incompatible format. If you have that, you can just hit OK and it just won't import that file into it. So we have all our videos in our browser. We have our viewer, our canvas, and our timeline. You can leave it set up like this, but what I like is, see this browser, it's taking up a lot of space and my screens are a little smaller. So what I like to do is come up here to Window, I like to go to Arrange, and I like to go to 2 up. And so now these screens are a lot bigger. My browser is down here, and I'm even going to drag my browser over a little bit so all I see is my video clips, and then here's my timeline, and then I'll just drag that up just a little bit more. So remember, your viewer, which is up here, views our clip. So if I double click on a clip down here, it pops up in my viewer. I can then hit the play button here and see what that clip is. So you go, okay, that's that clip, you know. Come down here, see what this clip is, and just get myself familiar with my clips, where they are, which ones do I want to start to edit. Now I showed you the play button here. There are also rewind and fast forward buttons here. So if I come over here and use this little scroller, and depending on which way I drag it, it will fast forward or rewind. And the farther I drag it, the faster it goes. So from middle, if I drag it over 1, it's almost a slow motion, and then it slowly gets faster and faster and faster. So I can drag through my clip that way. I can also scroll through my clip by grabbing this little wheel over here and holding down my mouse button and then just going left or right. I can also grab the playhead, which is this little yellow triangle with a line under it, and I can click and drag out. That playhead, you will also see there's a playhead that looks exactly the same in the timeline. There's also a playhead over here in your canvas that looks exactly the same. And another way is, if your mouse has one of those little scrolling wheels, you can put your mouse in that screen and you can scroll up and down, and it'll scroll left and right. And the last way you can navigate through is frame by frame using your arrow keys. So if you're selected in here and then you hit your arrow keys on your keyboard, you will go 1 frame at a time through your video. And one last thing here, instead of clicking the play button, if you want to hit your space bar, that will also play and pause your video. So we've imported our video, we've brought it up into our viewer, and we're now ready to start editing it. So what I'm going to do is get this playhead to a point that I want to edit. So I'm going to play through 1 time, so the camera doesn't start moving for a couple seconds there. So I'm going to bring it back until that camera starts to move, which is right in here somewhere. So I'm going to place my playhead there. If you want to fine tune it, use your arrow keys to get the exact spot you want, and then I'm going to hit the I key. That I key, there's a little triangle that popped up. That is now the end point of my clip. So this is not going to be dragged down to my timeline. My clip is going to start right here. So I'm going to hit play, and I want that to be my out clip, let's say. So if I hit the O key on my keyboard, that is now my out point. And so the clip that I'm going to drag down to my timeline is between these 2 points here. And instead of hitting the I and the O, if you come down here, these buttons right here are your in point and your out point. So you can set them that way too. So now, all I'm going to do is I'm going to click and I'm going to drag this clip down to my timeline and then drop it. Now this is a very important dialog box that pops up. It's basically saying this clip setting is not the same as my settings here, and do you want to change your sequence, that your sequence is your timeline, to match the clip settings? You always want to hit yes, or the majority of the time you do. That way you don't have to render anything. So now over here in my canvas, you can now see the clip I dragged down to my timeline. Now a couple things with your timeline. One, you have one video track and 2 audio tracks here, and as of right now they are connected. So if I drag, whoop, no they are not. Over here is 2 buttons, so if I click this button here, they will now be connected. So now when I drag them, they will go wherever I drag the video. The audio will go with it. Now over here, if I unclick it, it looks like almost an infinity sign, a little figure 8 slanted to the side. I can now click on one or the other and I can drag them to different locations. You need to be very careful about that, because if you drag it too far and you have audio that you're syncing with lips, you do not want to off sync that. Otherwise it's going to look funny when the person's talking and the right words aren't coming out of their mouth. So the majority of the time I leave this on. Sometimes that you turn it off is maybe you don't want the audio because it's just background audio, it's background noise, and you're going to put music over the video here, so you could get rid of the audio there. This next button here is snap to point. So right now if I come to the end of my clip, it snaps, and you see those little I don't know, arrows pop up right here. That means it snapped to that point. Well, if I unclick this, it is no longer going to snap to the point. Okay, I usually always leave this on, just so it snaps the point. And then also, if I drag down another clip, it will automatically snap to that point once I get close by. If I don't have that snap to point, it won't snap, and you can overlap your video there. So I'm going to delete that real quick. So you can have multiple video tracks, you can have multiple sound tracks. If you need another video track, you can either right click, hit add track, or if you just drag the track up, it will automatically create new tracks for you. Same with audio. Now remember, when you are stacking video, it is like stacking papers on top of each other. So whatever is on top is the one that is going to be viewed. Okay, now there's times where you'll stack text, you'll stack maybe just a small picture. Well, you'll need to stack them, but if you're stacking a full frame video, like if I just double click, let's get something a little different. There we go. Whoop, there's Shire. And I drag that down. The only thing that is going to be seen is Shire. I can't see this video under here because it is being hidden by whatever is on top. But if I drag this video up above it, I am now seeing this video. I'm not seeing that video. I'm going to delete that. I'm going to drag it down. Now when you drag down videos, let's get one nod of Shire close up here. When you drag videos down, you see that little arrow? It's either pointing left or pointing down. That's very important. If you want everything to get pushed over from where you're dropping it, you want the arrow pointing over. If you want it to be dropped exactly where it's at, you want the arrow down. So if I drop it right now, it's dropped where it's at. It didn't move this clip at all. If I do that one more time and have the arrow pointed over, it split my clip and put that exactly where I was dropping it, and then push this clip all the way over here and split it in half. There are times for that, but you just want to be careful that you're not splitting any clips. And so how you get your arrow pointing over or how you get your arrow pointing down is, here's your full track between those dark lines. There's this thin light line in the middle almost of your track. So depending on if you drop it on the top of that thin line or right below it is how your arrow moves. So if I'm to the top of the track, it'll push it over. If I come down below that thin line, it'll drop it on top. Now, you don't have to edit up here in your viewer by hitting in and out points. The other way you can edit is you can get your playhead down here, get it to the point where you want to edit, come over here to your toolbar and select the blade tool. Or you could hit B on your keyboard. You can come over here, it'll snap to your playhead. I'm going to select both. Now I need to come back over to my tool palette or hit the A key, and that will give me my selection tool, and I can now delete what I don't want. And so then I can go, okay, I want that to be my beginning. I will drag that over. And then maybe say, hey, right here, so if I just hit my B key, cut that, and then hit my A key, select it. Now also notice, since I do not have my clips connected, I have to do it to both. If your clips are connected, you can only have to do it once and it'll slice all three, or if you select it, it'll select all three. So those are some of your basic editing. You have your blade tool, you have your selection tool, or you could put in and out points up here. One other thing, down here in your timeline, you have this little scroller bar. If you grab the end of it, you can make, it's basically like zooming in, or if you grab and drag out, you can zoom out. That way you can either zoom into a particular clip where you're trying to edit, or you can zoom out so that you can see your whole timeline. You can also hit Command minus, and Command plus will also do the same thing. So those are some basic editing techniques. I will come back with another video showing you some more advanced techniques in Final Cut Pro.